Welcome back, everyone, to R2Kast number 104. Last week we spoke to Jack Iredale, who is a professional footballer. Quite a cool story, having fought through diabetes, or not fought through diabetes, but living with diabetes, having fought through 3 different major ACL injuries up until he was 20, and really starting to think, well, is this going to be the career? Am I going to manage to get into this? And over the last sort of 6 or 7 years, has progressed to play, and then what could be at time of release for his episode potentially be in the Championship. So the second league in England, arguably the most competitive league in the world. So a really cool story. Sort of spoke about a lot there. I don't know what the next episode is. We're sort of filming a wee bit ahead at the minute, but today we have someone who's, how do I put this? Certainly been making some waves in the old Instagram. You see him pop up quite a lot, talking about a pretty major topical thing in the ag sector at the minute. But we'll get into that later on. So I'm going to introduce you to Ioan Humphreys. Ioan, you want to say hello?
Hello. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Just before we get started with another episode of the R2Kast, I would like to thank our primary sponsors, A-Plan Rural. A-Plan Rural are heavily involved on the social media scene in the ag space with 120,000 followers on Instagram. They use this following to host social media takeovers with farmers throughout the country to showcase their stories. They also post to their rural community blog with further stories about these people in the industry. On top of this, they like to support initiatives that are championing the British agricultural industry, such as myself. So thank you to A-Plan Rural for that.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you on, mate. A pleasure to have you on. You might recognise that name from That Welsh Farmer. That's what he is on Instagram if you want to check him out, with some underscores between the words. One thing I meant to say before I introduced Ioan there, just in general, was you've probably noticed that randomly in the middle of 104 episodes of farming podcasts, a footballer's appeared. And apart from him at the end saying, "I did feed a calf on your farm, Wallace," that is his only connection to farming. How has this came into an agricultural podcast? Well, the reason for that is, and you've probably noticed over the last few episodes, but if you haven't, go back and check number 100, where I was the guest. Shit, I know. You're thinking, 100th episode, we're going to get someone cool, or a little bit more entertaining than you. But no, I was the 100th guest to announce the fact that we're starting a second series of the podcast. So we're going to have the food and farming side continuing as we do, 6 episodes a month, and then also 2 episodes a month of what's going to be called the R2Kast All In. So Jack, footballer, the next one is episode 107 of the podcast, with Dylan and Thiltia, who are basically world travellers. I think they're my age, 26, and I've been to between them 88 countries. So quite a cool story that. Just a little side fact. I'll probably stop plugging the All In podcast because you'll just be getting used to them appearing from now on. But that's just a little bit of info there. But speaking about Ioan, who I had to sort of have a quick chat with as to how to pronounce his name, because I didn't want to say the wrong way before, embarrassingly. Ioan, tell us a bit about yourself. Sort of what's your background? What was a young Ioan doing? What's your sort of history in that sense?
So I'm a 4th generation farmer. My great grandfather bought the farm in 1903 off the estate. So the village I live used to be a big estate. He was a miller, so he bought the mill, and then once the estate split up, he bought the farm, and then went to my grandfather and my dad. And then it got to me. Somehow I had no interest in it, didn't want anything to do with it, hated every minute of being on the farm. Just wanted to muck around, go and play football, try and speak to girls, which never worked. Also, football never worked either, really. I was in 6th form. What was I doing in 6th form? Geography, PE, and media studies. So literally, I was doing nothing. I just going nowhere, head in the clouds. When I look back, I was thinking I must be the only person to ever have done them 3 subjects together. It's
funny you say that. I did 2 of them and focused my English quite a lot on media.
I did geography in Welsh though, so I was So Welsh is my first language. Did all my school through Welsh, except English lessons, obviously. And then so in, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe 11 years ago, when I was 19-ish, my dad got ill. So he got prostate cancer, and that hit him quite hard in the prostate.
You have a humorous way of dealing with that one.
So he lost all his strength. He had one of them bags that you pee in, strapped to his ankle. So as you can imagine, sheep work and cattle work and everything was just horrendous. So he said to me, well, you can either start taking over the farm, or I can rent it out or sell it, because I just physically can't do it anymore. And that's how I got into farming.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, like, how did you get into it if it was no interest? It's almost quite like sort of sad terms that meant you led to it, but was it a decision that you're happy you made?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right.
I couldn't be any happier, I know it happened, unfortunately, but I'm very lucky that it happened that way. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done it in any other circumstance. I would have been, I don't know what I'd be now. I don't know. I can chat. I'd be selling cars or something, selling like cheap cars, or I don't know. Yeah, I'd be something random.
It's I mean, we did an episode with Karen Moynihan. I don't know if you know who that is. Quite big on TikTok. Who had a similar story. She'd sort of shown somewhat of an interest in the farm, and then her dad had a paralyzing injury, literally, and she was sort of like flung in at the deep end on that basis. But at that point, you weren't interested in the farm. So when your old man came to you, that must have been quite like, oh God, I don't actually know. I don't have any interest in this. Like, what made you say yes?
I don't know. I don't. Guilt, maybe.
Right.
Like we've had the farm since 1903. You kind of feel that responsibility to continue the family tradition. Does it make sense, kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
I literally had no idea. I had zero interest. I was like a new entrant coming in. I could spread fertilizer, I could roll the fields, and I could pull lambs. I had no idea when sheep needed drenching. I had no idea when I could wrap wool, but I had no idea when the shearers would turn up, no idea when to close off fields for harvest or when to cut or nothing. No. So I was kind of like, oh no, what am I doing here?
What age were you at that stage?
18, 19.
What age are you now, out of interest? I can't.
30.
I was thinking much younger.
Yeah, 30 years old. I've been there a long time.
It's not about a long time. It's only 30, but but that's a young age to take on that sort of decision. So it's a big one.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was difficult. Yeah, I spent a lot of time like hating it every minute of it.
Right.
Horrible. But it's worked out. It's worked out really, really well. I'm really lucky that my mother and father were really supportive in what I wanted to do. So they said, right. So we were farming a lot of sheep and a lot of cows. And when he got ill, we just cut everything in half so I could manage it. If they couldn't just chuck me in with these sheep and it'd be too overwhelming. So we just cut all stock in half, and then I built it back up slowly. But they were just there. Anything I ever needed, they were happy to help me, isn't it? And I got to drive the nice farm pickup around. So I was buzzing with that.
You were sorted, man. You were sorted. You're absolutely sorted. How long did it take? You said you hated it at first. How long did it take before you were like, okay, this is good. This is okay.
2 years.
Fair play to you for sticking it. That's the
Yeah.
time. Yeah, that's time.
Yeah, but it gets gradually better, and then you hit a point you're like, oh, actually, this is pretty good. You know, you're your own boss, working outside every day, you're doing something different. You know, working with animals, I really enjoy working with the animals. It's really I love it now, isn't it? It's really great.
Have you siblings?
Yes, so I've got an older sister. So she moved down to Cardiff, trying to be an actress. That panned out differently, so she's back home in the village now, and she's got some holiday houses that she runs. So we bought a little holding, 20 acres with some old barns and stuff. So she's converted. I got the 20 acres, but she's got the barns that I converted. And then I've got a younger sister as well, who's still up in the air, not sure what she wants to do yet, but she is working in my poultry unit. So she runs, the day-to-day of the poultry unit, Monday to Friday. Yeah, so she does the main, egg collecting and bird checks, and then I'm on all the paperwork and, the boring bit.
Yeah, it's important. It's important. Wait, where is home? What part?
So I'm in mid Wales. So I'm like right in the centre of Wales. So if you put a compass on Wales, I'd be right in the middle. Right in the middle. Yeah.
Are you? So is that pretty much perfectly in line with Aberystwyth?
Yeah. So I'm like an hour directly inland from Aberystwyth. So I'm between Aberystwyth and Shrewsbury.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Obviously from Scotland, drove to Aberystwyth quite a bit, and I always used to remember, like, you get the Welsh border, and you're like, oh, it can't be that far away.
I know, yeah,
it's far away, and you never get any chance to go above 40 mile an hour.
No. Wales is really deceivingly big, because everyone's like, "Oh, you're from Wales? Do you know Di from down the road?" I'm like, "No, Wales is actually really quite big."
I think we get that in Scotland as well. I was doing a harvest down in Essex, and the guy came. I was getting a tractor swapped over, and he heard the accent, and he's like, "Oh, you're not from here?" And I'm like, "Correct." And he said, "Where are you from?" And I was like, "Oh, Scotland, mate." And there's like it's the most southerly island off the southwest coast. That's where I'm from. And he's like, "Oh, wait a minute. My pal Neil, I think it was McGregor was the name. Neil McGregor lives in Perth. Do you know him?" And I'm like, "Well, it's a good 300 miles away, and so no, I don't know Neil McGregor, mate. I'm sorry."
I know, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, you're from England. Well, do you know such and such from Liverpool? That's sort of. If I'd known Welsh was your first language, I'd have tried to do the intro in Welsh. I think I know. Croeso is welcome. I had Maynard Howells on once. Do you know? Yeah, and I did this. It was R2Kast number 10. Croeso. Croes. It's like anal or something in there. Welcome back to R2Kast.
Croeso anal.
That I wasn't miles off.
Yeah, I know.
Croeso anal. R2Kast. Yeah, that's good. So it's your main language then. Well,
yeah. So that's what I did all my school through. When I go to market, I speak Welsh, but I speak English at home on the farm.
Is your sisters all Welsh? English?
Yes. Yeah. Welsh. Yeah. My mum used to be a learning support teacher in a Welsh school as well. So so I speak to my son in Welsh, and my wife speaks English to him.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, she speaks English. She's not can't speak as much Welsh as me. So.
Right.
Yeah.
So I always quite like to hear languages. The last episode I filmed with someone that spoke Spanish and German, and I asked them just to say a sentence.
You're putting me under pressure here now.
If it's your first language, I'm sure you can. It's not like you've just learned a language and I'm like, oh, what to say, I don't know, just something like your name or whatever. I don't know. Well, that's not your name's not going to change, but I say
No. So what I'll say is my name's Ioan Humphreys, and I'm a free range poultry farmer. So enw I yw Ioan Humphreys, a dwi'n ffermio ieir maes rydd.
Understood one word. Well, 3 words in there. Fermio or Fermio. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the name of the sort of country file in Wales, isn't it?
Yeah, I did an episode on that once.
Did you? Right? Yeah. How'd that come about? Tell us about
that. Yeah, it was really good. So in 2019, I built the poultry unit, so the 32,000 bird poultry unit. And they phoned me up and they wanted to do a segment on new businesses. So they came and filmed all about why I did it and what it's like and if I regretted it yet. And yeah.
Positive question.
Yeah, came and filmed me just collecting eggs for a day. So yeah, it was really good. Did all that in Welsh.
I guess do you know, actually in credit to Fermio and just Welsh sort of TV in general, like up here, my mum and dad don't do a lot of traveling, so they haven't been to Highland Show probably since they were taking me as a kid, yeah, and they don't go to many things, and they'll watch the whole Welsh show because it's all documented, and I think brilliant. Like, we don't have that up here. Landward do like a wee bit of, you know, we're at the Highland Show and this is us trying some cheese, but like the Welsh show's done really well. And
yeah, what's it? This Farm in Life or something? That's all in Scotland, is it?
Yeah.
That's the real fancy farmers. The last one I watched, they bought a tub for 50,000 guineas or something.
So I embarrassingly haven't watched it.
Have you not? No. 50,000 guineas for a tap, and I was like,
it's not. Yeah. You see any of these world records and stuff, or not even just world records, just high numbers like your Old House Burns and Proctors and stuff like that. Like, I'm not calling them out, but I've said it a few times. Like, it feels false, and I think it.
You buy mine, and I'll buy yours.
Yeah.
They're just swapping. I reckon that's what's happening. I'm only saying that because I haven't got the money to buy a really fancy one.
We're only saying this out of jealousy, but I mean, it's true though, because like, I mean, collusion's illegal, and it's if that's what's happening, it's a form of it. Like, and that's it's not great. But what that does though, from the rest of us perspective, is when that Texel top was sold. I'm terrible at figures, but it was 100 and something thousand. Like, and as a Texel top lamb, or was it a shearling? I can't remember, but anyway. It was on BBC Breakfast.
Yeah.
Sheep cost this. So people hear, oh, such and such has got 600 sheep. Well, they must all be worth 100,000 each. You know, like that's how they see it.
It does kind of put a like, oh, well, farmers are doing fine. If they can spend that much money on one sheep, then they must be doing fine, you know. But there's a very small group of, you know, tup breeders and buyers that can actually afford to do that. The general farmer spending £1,000 on a ram.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. It is a strange world. But who was that on This Farm in Life? Do you know? You know which one that was? Or?
No, I have no idea who it was.
I've
got a nice tap anyway.
That's it. I've filmed with a lot of people on there. Like, I would say I'm pretty good friends with Emma Gray. Emma and Ewan have been on. Stevie Mitchell, Lynn, Sandra, Lynbreck. I'll be missing folk, I know I am, but yeah, it's the Roans, Tracy and Ailett Roan. It's a good show though. I think it does a lot of good for a lot of things. I mean, we've got things like Countryfile and folks like Countryfile, but at the same time, like, if 6 million people, I mean, I filmed with Adam as well. If 6 million people are looking at farm in a positive light, that's invaluable. Like, so I think we've got to look at these with a bit more positive.
There was a real good-looking bloke on Countryfile last night. Anyway,
was it you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about that. You're clearly on telly all the time. Fantastic.
I would just like to quickly interrupt the show for a minute to give you some extra information on our primary sponsors, A-Plan Rural. A-Plan offer bespoke cover for farms and estates the UK over, and will give you tailored insurance for anything on the farm, from your old workhorse tractor that's been around 20 years, or a fancy new and exciting diversification?
I record it on my phone and send them then their clips. I send them the clips that I record, and then they edit it together and then put it out. So it's only like a 5-6 minute segment of just a bit of real farming. What's he up to today? So last night was the lambing special. So a segment on that, just to show a bit of, if it's good, I'll show it. If it's bad, I'll show it, kind of thing. I'm a bit more of a, farming isn't all sunshine and rainbows. It does go wrong. So, and I'm happy to show when stuff goes wrong, because it does.
Like that. I think more people should be like that, in fairness. I get it's tricky, but I do think so. So tell us about the farm, Ioan. What's involved? You've half the sheep and cow numbers. Are you?
I built them. Oh well, I built the sheep back up. Cows still running 25 sucklers, and then they've got their followers. We went down to about 600 ewes when I took over. Now we're back up to about 1,000.
Okay.
And then there's 32,000 free-range hens roaming around too. Is
it Welsh mountain sheep? What are you running there?
So half the flock are Welsh mountain and Welsh speckle-faced.
Oh yeah.
So nice hardy breeds. They all lamb outside all year round. And then I've got a lowland flock, which would be like a Welsh mule, Texel cross, Suffolk cross. And now I've just experimented with a North Country Cheviot ram on my Welsh ewes to make a nice little Welsh mule type. So yeah, they all lamb indoors early.
You sound like the perfect question to ask this. I'll even show you what I think it is. How do you pronounce the sheep? Lleyn.
Keen.
Oh my God, I was so far off. I knew it was I used to go to Llangollen quite a lot, so I knew LL was like HL, like
yeah.
But I thought it was like Clean.
No,
clean. Right, okay. Excellent.
So the E is silent. So it's, you miss the E and then it's YN, Sheen.
Double L, E that doesn't matter, and a Y that's kind of half pronounced.
Yeah, but in the Welsh alphabet, a Y is
But that's not what you said.
Sheen. So yeah, Welsh is weird.
was that place when you're not far past Oswestry? Roshalanshregog?
Roshangigog.
Oh my God, I was so far off. Right, okay.
I'm not sure where that place is. There's Llanfair Pwll Gwyngyll Gerin, something Llansandreilio Go. That's the long.
Is that the one that on the weather forecast it's like lines? Fantastic. We've got nothing exciting like that up in Scotland. It's just like Ochtermuchty and Ecclefechan, which are spelled exactly how they sound. It's a bit of a shame.
You got Nessie?
Difficult to say, but we do argue maybe have Nessie. And speaking of snake-like characters, you've just put your arm up at the minute. Tell us about that. Your bicep there.
Yeah, tattoo there. It says FKN grass snakes. There's grass snake in the middle. Yeah. So I hate grass snakes with a passion. I do have to actually admit I've never seen a grass snake, but I know if I see one, I won't like it.
So is it snakes in general, or is it grass snakes in particular? Because they're a very undangerous snake.
Don't like any snakes, but grass snakes, I'm sure they've got a nasty look on them. They must have evil eyes or something. I can tell. I know when I see one, I'm not going to like it. So I'm just letting them know before I meet them that I don't like them.
That's brilliant. You know, on the island I'm from, there is adders and grass snakes, and that's it. So
there's adders around me. I've never seen one of them either, but I know they're there, and I hate them too. Snakes. Oh,
I get it.
Like we got what they call slow worms as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can swivel. They can get out of here.
I totally get being scared of snakes. I wouldn't say I'm over fond on them, but yeah, I totally get it. I totally get it. And what was that?
I went to Australia for 3 months and I didn't even see one snake there. In a zoo, I saw a snake in a zoo. I didn't like that, but still.
Look away. Go to the other side. Go look at the lions and the tigers.
Yeah.
I was watching a video with. I don't know if you follow like. This is very random. I don't know where this discussion's came from, but anyway, about World's Strongest Man and stuff like that. Like I follow a lot of that. I am very much not one of them, but Eddie Hall and Brian Shaw, who if you do know, or if you don't know, Eddie Hall's a sort of short, stocky, won the World's Strongest Man once from Stoke, was 200 kilos at one point, but is 6'3". Yeah. Brian Shaw, 4-time champion, used to be like 450 pounds, this sort of thing. Massive guys. And they went to see this liger, which, going to be honest, thought it was a fake thing. I thought it was a joke. I'd heard of ligers, but I thought it was just people pretending. It was huge. It was 940 pounds.
Massive, yeah. Massive ligers. Tigers are huge anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, like, tigers and lions are big, yeah? It's not like a cat. But I was blown away, man. I was blown away.
Yeah, massive.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. We were at Blair Drummond. Welcome on to the agricultural podcast where I tell you stories about stupid tourists at a zoo. We were at Blair Drummond, which is like a safari park up in Scotland, and I absolutely love it. Like, love it. And the way you get into it is through an open enclosure of animals. So lions, probably wouldn't be giraffes in with the lions. That wouldn't work. So it must be because there's like separate bits. Yeah, so like lions, elephants, giraffes, tigers, and stuff like that. And this woman in front of us got out of her car, and this pickup, like one of the rangers, like flew over, like screaming at her, "Get in that fucking car!" Yeah, this has been a weird caveat, but here we are. You might as well tell us about the other tattoo. That's quite funny as well.
Which one? This one here. Yeah. So that's two cowboys high-fiving because I like cowboys. I like high fives. Or it could be two cowboys line dancing. It's up to you, whatever you want to call that. Yeah.
You make them dance if you move your arm the right way.
Yeah, I should have got one on each arm.
Yeah, that's it. So, 4 years ago, you put a house for 32,000 poultry in. Yes. I guess the only question I really have is why. It's a big decision. It's a massive decision. Mm-hmm. What guided you in that direction?
What idiot I was. No, I thought it would be a bit of security for the farm. The sheep and beef market was so volatile back then. You had no idea what you were going to get for anything. It's still pretty volatile now. The beef market's through the roof. So I thought it would be, it's a lot of the numbers game. So you know exactly how much you're spending on everything. You know exactly how much you're getting paid for your eggs. You get paid weekly for your eggs. So you're getting this money coming in every week. It's a constant stream on your farm. Your cash flow, you know what you're doing. Yeah, that's what I thought it was going to be. So that's why I did it, just to secure the farm. I hate saying it, but we left the EU, which was the stupidest thing ever, in my opinion. So I didn't know what was going to happen to the farming scene. So I thought, if I have this poultry business up and running, a nice solid income, the farm's secure for me and future generations. That's what I was trying to do anyway.
But I take it you weren't a Brexiteer.
No, I can't even believe the public were allowed to vote on it, and every farmer got duped into thinking it would be a good thing for farming, when, as a matter of fact, it was probably the worst thing that has ever happened for farming in the UK, in my opinion. But politicians lie. That's what they're good at. They get you to vote on for something, and then they just pull it from underneath you. That's how they make their living.
I mean, or the person that made us do it left. people find this out pretty quickly and they speak to me. There's not really much point in trying to talk about politics because I don't really get it. To the point that, and people get angry at me for this, I don't really vote. I was kind of too busy at the Highland show and forgot that a vote was happening. So never actually voted. I'll be honest, at the time, had I voted, I was going to vote leave. And here, if I had, I would be pretty happy in those words now. Like, I mean, I think there's a positive to offering younger folk the chance to vote. When was it? 2016? Is that right?
No idea. I've kind of blanked that out of my mind.
I think it was June 2016. So I would have been 18. Pretty young, but I get that's sort of obviously going to be the age. But I don't think you're actually at the stage of really being able to make a good decision in that sense. But anyway, I get what you're saying. But just before I sort of ask you about the poultry side, what do you think the UK will offer to subsidise food production in this country? Do you think we're going to see any subsidy?
We'll get money for being as environmentally friendly as humanly possible. So, you know, we'll get money. The more stuff you're doing to reduce carbon footprint and help the environment, the more money you'll get. If you don't want to do it, you'll get penalized. You'll get penalized, and you'll have to do it anyway for no money. So they'll entice you in to do as much, you know, environmental work as with for money. I don't think they're really that worried about the food production systems at the minute. They should be. They really should be. You know, we all want to keep our costs down and be as, you know, eco-friendly. I got solar panels on the roof of the hen shed, but I've only got 34 kilowatts because the grid won't let me put any more on. I could be self-sufficient if I put another 50 kilowatts on, but they won't let me.
Why wouldn't they let you?
There's no room on the grid, so I've got to speak to someone to get a machine to like cut off the solar panels if they start to export, because I'm not allowed to export more than 34 kilowatts, but I'm using about 140 kilowatts a day anyway. Oh, yes, another one of my...
You're making the effort to basically make all of your energy a circular system that's on your farm, and they're against that, yet they're promoting sustainability, reduced carbon.
Yeah, but then if I'm self-sufficient, then I won't be giving them any money, will I?
Yes, I guess so. But yeah, fair. It's like I've got a solution to cancer, but Pfizer don't want to hear it. Like, it's mad. Yeah, annoying, but it is the way it is. So, yeah, poultry are there. They are now on the farm.
Yes.
What was the process involved in building that? I don't assume it's we now have a shed. I assume that's quite a major undertaking.
Yeah, so planning permission, huge planning permission. That took like 14 months to get planning permission on the shed. And then as soon as you get the green light, you phone up your poultry supplier and say, right, I've got planning, I'm starting on the groundworks today. And they go, okay, then we'll send you birds in 5 months. And then you go, oh, really? They're like, yep, we'll order them now. Your birds will be with you in 5 months. So then you get as many people onto the site, you clear it, get the concrete in, shed up, concrete the floors. The floors in there are like glass, you know, they're so smooth to stop any germs or anything getting in there. You get the equipment in there. You know, I spent 700,000 on equipment on just for the inside, you know, for the birds to live and nest in. They sent 4 blokes from Romania, came out, they built that in 5 weeks, built the insides, and then they turn up and here you go, here's your birds.
Is that basically what happens? They just...
So right. I start the 25th of November, the bulldozer turned up on the site, and then it was like the 10th of June, I think the birds were in. So yeah, 6 months ish.
That is rapid. And I see why you were like, shit, like, okay.
Yeah.
For it.
It's a big old shed too, yeah. 140 meters long by 20 meters wide.
What's that? Best part of 3,000 meters squared?
I have no idea. Big.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is big. Like, did you know much about poultry before this?
I went to my mates and did one shift in his poultry shed.
Yep. So basically, an expert.
Yeah, no, I've just learned along the way.
Excellent.
Yeah. So, like the company I get my birds off. They've got like field persons.
Right.
So if you've got any problems, you phone them up and like, oh, the birds are acting funny. Can you come out and see them? And he's like, oh yeah, this is why they're acting funny. You need to do this, and it'll stop them. Or you need to do the lights and this, and this kind of thing. Yeah. So you do get a lot of support, but it's pretty wild.
So arguably the most technologically advanced system in farming is poultry, certainly up there. What's involved in what you're doing as a manager?
So I can tell, like, the app has deleted itself off my phone, but if I had it on, I could tell you now to the gram how much each bird has eaten today, yesterday, before. Yeah, each bird.
Or as a total average per.
Yeah, so it's the total that goes through, and then it splits the average between the birds. Feed, water. I can tell you the heat, inside, outside. Yeah, if what the ventilation is doing, I can edit the ventilation. If it's too hot in there, I can turn the fans on, or I can make the wind speed in there quicker. If it's a bit dusty, I can get the air going through. Lights go from 100% down to 40, 30%. Every light, I can do that. Yeah, it's crazy.
And I'm trying to word this. I know exactly what I'm trying to ask. You know how much feed per bird?
Mm-hmm.
I assume in a shed of 32,000 animals, there's going to be a notable amount of loss, even if it's a low percentage. How does it know what's died? Is that manually inputted?
Yeah, so I'll have one a day die, maybe, if I'm unlucky.
Oh, right. Oh, wow. I thought it was going to be much higher than that. Right, okay.
No. So my mortality on my last flock, so I had my last flock for, let me see, 62 weeks or something they were with me for, and my mortality was 3% out of 32,000.
Yeah, so that's over the course of 62 weeks, so a year and a fifth, give or take.
Yeah, 3%. So what's that? 900 birds.
That's amazing.
Yeah, unbelievable. That shed is built. That the birds in that shed will have a better life than birds in someone's back garden.
Now, is that, I think is amazing, but just benchmarking wise, is that good?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So what's the sort of national average, or maybe not specifically?
7%.
Wow. So is that purely down to the shed, or is that down to you guys as well?
Both. Yeah. So my shed's really new, pristine, clean. Everything is built. I went for the Bentley of sheds. So it's the dogs danglers of sheds. So the birds are always in perfect condition. They've always got feed, water. They're always warm. They can go outside whenever they want. They can come back in whenever they want. They've got toys to play with, extra stuff to eat, and dust to bathe in. They've got the best. When they're with me, that's the best life they could ever have. And we're in there 2-3 times a day, walking, making sure that they're any problems, you've got to get on top of it like that. If a problem comes today and you miss it, you'll have a big problem in 2 days' time.
And what are these problems? What problems are you
E. coli.
Right.
Smothering. If smothering starts, then there's a bit of trouble, because if one goes into a corner, the other one's like, that's a nice corner. And she's like, I'm going in there. And then the other one's like, whoa, these guys are in this corner. That's a really nice corner. And they just go, poof.
Yeah.
And, you can have 100 birds just on top of each other in a corner. And then, yeah. If one of the water drinkers doesn't work, water's the main problem. If you've got a problem with your water, they just lose it. They don't drink and then they panic. And they'll start dying then.
And what's the main way E. coli is getting in, and how are you treating when it's there?
E. coli is in the bird. It's always in the bird.
Okay.
It's just something that like a stress or something can flare it up. And then once one gets it, then she'll pass it to the other. Once it flares up on one, she'll pass it around. So, if you have a power cut and the lights are flicking on and off, it'll stress them out and one can get E. coli from that, and then she'll die, and then the other will peck, or she'll, do a poop in the feed, and then it goes,
So I take it maybe you're like, oh, that's a nice corner smothering could lead to some getting E. coli, those that don't die. That's a stress. Yeah. Right, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a very quick learning curve. Yeah. It's there's more to it than I thought anyway. You got to turn the belt on the same time every day, because that belt has a certain noise, and then the chickens get used to when it's like dairy cows, isn't it? Dairy cows like to get milked the same time every day. Chickens like to be fed the same time every day. They like the feed belts, the egg belts to go on the same time every day, like the muck conveyor to go on the same time. It's weird.
So it's not obviously ad lib feeding, it's just there's feeding times. Is that how many times throughout the day is that?
Times a day, yeah. Right. So 32,000 birds will eat about 4 tons of feed a day.
So that leads me to my next question. Your input costs must be phenomenal.
Yes. £10,000 a week on feed. Water, I'm on a borehole, so paid for the borehole, so that's it. Electric costs, it's a lot. And then staff, labor. But yeah, it costs. A flock of hens costs me about 1.2 million,
and that's sort of your 32,000. Yeah.
So to have the flock of birds for their duration, I'll spend 1.2 million. Yeah.
Wow. Is there not pardon my ignorance, by the way, I know nothing about this. Is there not a way you can breed your own replacements, I guess? No. That's not a thing that happens, no.
So there's the hatcheries and the laying hens, and then I just get mine in at 16 weeks. They're with me, and they start laying at about 21 weeks. So it would cost me a lot of money to get them from chick to lay, 16 weeks, 20 weeks, 5 months of just spending money on them before I even get an egg. So I just buy them in.
That would cost you more than 1.2 million.
Well, it would add to the cost. Yeah, you'd add a hell of a lot to the cost. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I of course. I assume like a day old's cheaper, but you're still having to pay for them, of course. Yeah. Jesus. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
You mentioned at the start, I asked why poultry and why to go down that route, and you said because you knew the price before, you knew all that sort of thing, and then you said, so I thought, is that not the case?
Last year it was.
Tell us about that. I said at the start that that there's there was something we're going to go over, and last year was I was talking about, and it's probably where I sort of first became aware of you on Instagram, sort of speaking about the challenges of the egg sector. I guess it was all put down to bird flu, but from what I understand, that really was not the case. So tell us about that.
bird flu was a factor. You know, I'm not going to deny that bird flu was it's killed about 2.5 million birds so far. Bird flu has. But last year, it was costing me about £1.25 to produce a dozen eggs.
Okay.
I was getting paid £1.09 for that dozen eggs.
Jesus Christ. And right, so say that again. It costs you £1.25 per dozen, did you say?
Yeah, to produce a dozen eggs. Yeah.
How many dozen do you produce in a week or a day or what?
Oh Lord.
How many eggs?
I know eggs. Have you got a calculator on you?
I'm kind of one of them myself. I like doing this.
Okay, so I'll average 30,000 eggs a day.
30,000 eggs. So that.
It's easy. Yeah.
Well, it's not easy. I'm on the spot now. Why have I done that? Why have I done that? It's going to be 30,000, 2,500, 12, 24, half of 12, 6, 30. 2,500 eggs. 2,500 dozen.
Eggs a day.
Yeah, 2.5k dozen. So that is then you're losing 16 pence per dozen.
Yeah.
Right, so that's what's that times? So it's 250 would be 10% plus half of that another 125, 375 plus another. Yeah, so about £390 a day you're losing. Is that right?
Something like that could have gone up to more.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And how long was that the case for?
From when the war started.
Until
Christmas.
Oh my God. So essentially a year, 10 months, yeah?
Yeah.
God, that's shit. That's not good. How much would you be expecting for a dozen? What was what you were used to?
Well, I was on £1.05 for a dozen, but it was only costing me £1 to produce.
Right, okay, yeah.
And then the production cost went up, but the eggs didn't follow.
Jesus. And where are you now? Are you in a better place now, I take it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no point lying about it. Yeah, we are a lot better. But we've got to be, because so many people have lost so much money and so many people have stopped producing eggs. You know, they stopped stocking their sheds. So you've got to put the price of eggs back to entice these sheds back in to get the quantity of eggs back. But yeah, we're in a lot better place now.
Well, you need to be.
Yeah. It's a huge investment to be losing money.
Yeah.
It's not like, and then you couldn't sell it, because what businessman would buy a business that's losing over £300 a day?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, yeah. A quite expensive business for that as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And what's the word I'm looking for? Right, I guess what I'm saying is bird flu was the reason. No, sorry, it wasn't the reason.
It was a little part. Yeah, it was, you know, so 2.5 million birds died from bird flu.
Yeah.
10 million birds didn't get ordered for the next flock. So because people couldn't afford it, they didn't order 10 million birds. So, you know, that was bird flu. That was not enough money.
Yeah. And I take it you were having to lock everything in the whole time. Is that right?
Yes, we were on lockdown. Yeah.
That wasn't nice.
No, I hate lockdown. I hate bird lockdown, because I built a free range shed. I want my doors open. I want my birds going out. I think it's so much nicer. I wouldn't have built a shed. I wouldn't have built any other shed. Free range, I wanted my birds to be. I want them to go outside, roam, do what you please outside, then come back in, lay your egg, then go outside and do what else you please. That's what I always wanted. So the lockdown I don't like. No.
Now, riddle me this. How was there free range eggs in the shop?
So your birds can be locked in for 16 weeks before you lose your free range status.
Oh, could it? Right, okay. Yeah.
So my birds have been roaming. They got locked in. 16 weeks hit. They barn eggs then.
Right,
Because
okay.
they've been free range birds, and then after 16 weeks, they're then barn birds.
So, how long was the lockdown?
I hope you've kicked your feet up and got comfy and enjoying another fantastic episode of the R2Kast with another really interesting guest. I would just like to quickly take another second to plug the sponsors of the show today, the Scottish Farmer, and I would strongly advise you to go out and pick one up this week and see even more of the fantastic people that are in our industry.
20, almost 30 weeks, I think.
So, for those birds that have been free range whole life and then they lose that accreditation, can they then become free range again?
Probably yes.
Right, okay.
Because as soon as the doors open and they go out, they are free range, aren't they?
Yeah. Right, okay.
Yeah.
And what sort of premium do you get for being free range compared to not?
You get more money for your eggs. Free range and cost more to buy in the shops, don't they, than barn and caged.
Yeah.
So you just get more money for your eggs for being free range.
What made you choose layers over broilers?
I don't like the broiler system personally.
I agree.
They come in a day old and they go out at 30 days old.
It's shocking.
If there's broiler farmers listening or whatever, someone's got to do it. But I personally wouldn't want to do it. It's too quick of a turnaround for me.
I think that's fair. I was actually in a place today where by law farrowing crates are illegal in pigs, but if you have them, they're still usable until you get rid of them. And we're in a place that's still using them for research, not commercially, purely for research. And the person who's doing the research is like, look, this isn't the way. We don't want this. It's to prove the other way's better. But by God, it was awful. And it's like, I think broilers is down that route. And
I don't like it personally, isn't it? But people want chicken and they want chicken cheap. You don't go to a shop and you buy a free range whole chicken, do you?
No.
You just don't get it. The country eats a lot of chicken, and that's the one way to get your chicken in Tesco's and Asda and whatever.
It eats a ridiculous amount of chicken. I mean, I'm quite a lamb fan, quite a beef fan. I understand they're expensive. I do. And fish, but I know you can go to Asda or whatever and get 3 kilo of frozen chicken for whatever, and it's like, there's no way this animal can have lived an enjoyable life. Like, it just can't have. No, I kind of thought that was going to be your answer, actually. So the struggles last year, you're saying you're sorry, pardon me. You're saying you're in a better place now. Does it feel like that's quite secure for now?
Yes. So the new contracts are all tracking contracts, isn't it? So they'll follow feed price and all that. So if feed goes extortionately high like it did last year, then our egg price should, go up with it to help us manage them costs.
Well, yeah, that's something. That's got to be good. Yeah. No, the input thing's scary. Like I said to you, your inputs must be through the roof. And
so my feed last year went from £250 a ton to £400 a ton, like in a week's. So I was paying like £250 a ton, and then the next week, my next load was £400 a ton.
Yeah, so you've went from $1,000 to 1,600 a day.
Yeah. Gee whiz.
It's like scary figures, that. Like,
yeah.
And do you mind me asking what you're at the minute?
What?
Feed-wise cost, yeah.
360, I think.
Yeah, so it's still not like, it's not where it was. Yeah.
Never will.
No, it's not gonna. Fertilizer and fuel costs have I know fuel's much better now than it was. But what was it? Where was I last week? I was at a trip, and they'd said the max they'd paid for rebated like red diesel was 132. Yeah,
Wow.
That's right, because they were now at 67, and they said we're 1 pence off of being half.
Wow.
Yeah, like
I just bought some fertilizer delivered a couple of days ago. That was down to 405. So it's not better than it was.
Yeah, well, it hit four figures at one point, did it not? Or was it 900 it hit absolute peak?
Yeah, something like that. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. It was a worrying time because, I mean, it was around sort of just before your COP I can't remember which COP, but and I had a few mates were at it, and they were like, yeah, they were talking about Haber-Bosch process, and they're like, this is going to be enemy number one. We're getting rid of this. Like 4 figures is where it's staying. So it's good. It's back down, but it's still double where it was.
Yeah.
Not a year ago, but 14, 15 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Worrying times.
Last year was a perfect storm to shaft farming.
Yeah.
Everything that could have gone to make farming more difficult happened, unfortunately, and it was out of our control, really. And the poultry was just the poultry was a perfect storm. Everything that was going to make poultry rubbish happened, and it was out of our control. But unfortunately, we had to subsidize that for 10 months.
But that shouldn't fall on the shoulders of this sector.
No, but that's what people complain. Oh, you farmers, you get subsidies, you get all these subsidies. Yes, so you can have cheap food. Yeah. You don't have it for us to go on a cruise. We have the subsidy to keep our costs low, so you can have cheap food. That's all it is. It's because you want cheap food. If you cut the subsidies, food price goes straight up because we can't produce it. We can't produce it for cheap.
And it's a massive national privilege to have that because, well, EU-based privilege, sorry. Because we're in a country that's supposed to be the most developed in the world. Arguably the one. I hate the term developed, but that's the word they say. We're not allowed to say first and third world anymore, so we say developed and developing, which I think is if we're developed, we're no longer developing, so we're saying we're perfect, which we're so far from. And we've got, is it not something like 7 or 8% of people using food banks on a consistent basis? And for even people that aren't using food banks, people that are living what 10 years ago was a decent salaried life, could probably buy a house, could probably do whatever, now can't afford to eat food and can't afford, I was going to say safe, nutritious food, but it's really food at this point. Yeah. It's a worrying prospect, that the whole no subsidy. The
thing is, I don't know, this is just me personally, right? I don't want oodles of money coming at me for my produce. I just want to live a nice life and be able to provide good, healthy food.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, if it costs me £1 to produce it, all I want is £1 and a penny, just so I'm not losing money. Mm-hmm. I can live comfortably, I can whatever. It's not as if we're making food expensive because we want more money. The only reason we're making food expensive is because our inputs are so high. It's not the farmer dictating, right, these eggs, you need to buy these 12 eggs for £2.50. That's nothing to do with me. That's nothing to do with me at all. I'm the bottom of the food chain. We're the bottom of the food chain. We get whatever's left over. But all I want is to cover my costs.
Well, I'm just out of interest, just actually looking onto a supermarket whom shall remain nameless, just to see how much a dozen of random eggs are. Let's look at free range eggs. I don't know how this works. Do you offer large, medium, or have you got grading that you offer everything?
Yeah, I got large, medium, small eggs.
Right. So Tesco. Oh no, it didn't remain nameless. It's not Tesco. Not very good at this. Large free range eggs, 6 pack. What do you think it's going to be?
A 6 pack, so half a
Half
dozen.
a dozen. Yeah. Half a dozen.
£2, £2.
So it's 175. Yeah, so that's 350 they're getting for that. And
350 for a dozen.
yeah, and you're sitting at 109, was it one?
That's what I was sitting at. Yeah, I'm a bit high now.
But for the just over £1 for sure.
Oh yeah.
So they've got a knocking on 300% markup.
Well,
I know there's middle folk in there. I know that, but
because my thing is though, right? Really, we're all businesses, isn't it? And everybody wants to make a profit. Tesco wants to make a profit. Oh, I said it too. A supermarket wants to make a profit. The packer wants to make a profit, and I want to make a profit. But we just need to distribute it so we're all, instead of one or two making a profit, all three of us should be able to make a profitable business out of it. Instead of one taking all the money and leaving us chasing our tails.
No, definitely. And for legal purposes, I do want to say that other supermarkets exploiting farmers are available. I'm not very good at this.
Cut that bit out. Bleep it.
Yeah, that's it. It never happened. No, it's always quite interesting because like you speak to folk. I think the first person I spoke to post Ukraine was Crawford Niven. I don't know if you've came across a sort of a farming YouTuber up here in Scotland, and he spoke about
arms.
Yeah.
He's got one of my merchandise hats.
Oh, has he?
Yeah, I speak to him quite a lot. Yeah.
There you are. He's a good guy, Crawford. And he spoke about the increase in inputs and from the arable side, and I speak to most folk that are on the ground farming and talk about this, and it always, every time I'm like, man, like the circumstances this country's put in, the most important, and I'm yet to find anyone that can dispute that most important industry in is sad.
Yeah.
But here, it's been a pleasure to chat. It's always good fun to meet folk, and time flies by. We've spoke for an hour. I don't know if you think it felt that way, or maybe it felt like 3 for you.
I go off on tangents and I just talk at people, not with people. That's my problem.
Not at all. I mean, we've actually been on the call, you and I, for an hour and 15 minutes.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, it does fly by. It's quarter to 9. But there's 2 questions. I think you'd said you'd listened to a couple podcasts before. 2 questions I ask everyone. The first one is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And the second one is, and you're quite probably a good person to ask this, because yes, it was handed down to you, but you've certainly put your mark on it. If you had tips for folk getting into farming, what would they be?
Right, 5 years from now, we'll probably be in the same place. Just hopefully my hair will grow back. I'll have hair again, hopefully, in 5 years.
R2Kast sponsored by Belgravia. I don't think they're going to speak to me with this face, but anyway.
Yeah, so in 5 years, hopefully, I'll have a few more strings to my bow. Yeah, I've got a few things coming up in the pipeline, and hopefully in 5 years, one of them should be up and running anyway. Yeah, so yeah. A little bit of I get bored, try to be a little bit of an entrepreneur, try a few different things. And then advice for people trying to get into farming. The one thing I would tell anyone is try your best to go to an agricultural college. It's really difficult to get into the agricultural industry on your own. So an agricultural college will help you learn the basics of farming, and that depends how long you stay there. They'll help you with advances of farming, but they can also put you in contact with placements and farms and farmers to go and experience, life on a farm. If you're not sure what you want to do, you want to be a dairy farmer or, a sheep farmer or arable farmer, well, you can go off and try these different things. If you're young and trying to get in it, if you're a bit older and trying to get in it, I don't know, it's difficult.
It is, yeah.
But if you're not in college or college age, you got to work a lot of time for not a lot of money. I don't take a wage off the farm.
Right.
So if I, want shopping or something, I ask my mum and dad for a little bit of money, and then all my house bills and stuff are paid by my wife. I'm very lucky that way, isn't it? So I don't take a wage off the farm. All the money that the farm makes goes straight back into it. So as a new entrant, if you've got a farm tenancy, if you could get a farm tenancy or something, don't expect to make, getting yourself a lot of money. All that money needs to go back into the farm to improve your business. And hopefully it's a long, slow process, isn't it? Getting into farming. Difficult.
Yeah. Very difficult. It is.
I did a thing on thread on Twitter, didn't I, asking about people, how much money do you make, and not how much money do you make, how much money do you pay yourself? And everyone was like, yeah, nothing really. We try and put money back into the farm. It's really, really difficult. I feel very lucky that I have been I'm one of the lucky ones that was born onto a farm. If I wasn't born onto a farm, I wouldn't be doing it. I couldn't see myself a way for myself getting into a farm unless I was getting a farm tenancy. And I don't think I'd be a farm worker either, because it wouldn't make me enough money. I want that, and that's the problem. That's the problem with the industry. It's not an attractive industry to get people in, because we're not making. I can't pay people ridiculous wages to come in. Do you know what I mean? It's really, really hard. And us as farmers, I am being a bit doom and gloom, and I hate being doom and gloom. It's the worst thing, but it is difficult. It's hard. It's harder than people think.
You say about doom and gloom, I rate your honesty, man. I think it's a thing we've got to talk about. Or we spoke about politics at the start, and I said how little I know about it, but those are some of the guys that can change things. And if we're just saying, yeah, we're grand, that's not going to get anything fixed,
No.
So,
and I have got so much respect for first generation farmers and people taking all that on, because it must be just so difficult, so hard. I help people as much as I can. If there's someone around here on a farm that's like, oh, I need to do this, I'm like, yep, I'll help you straight away. And I don't send bills out or anything. I'm just trying to help people. I want to see other people succeed, and that is a very rare thing in farming. I think there's a big jealousy in farming, like, oh, you can't be doing better than me, you can't be doing better than me. I don't care what you're doing, as long as we're all succeeding as one in the agricultural industry.
I couldn't agree more with that. And I think there's this sort of how didn't you know that? Feel, well, I'm 18 or whatever, or I didn't need to know this. Let's instead of being don't be a dick, tell me what the crack is and let's try and work it out. So yeah, no, I agree entirely, and I've suddenly developed a voice like a frog and it's all croaky, but yeah, I like that. I agree entirely. But no, here, it's been a pleasure. Appreciated your time, man. I've fair enjoyed the chat. I hope you've enjoyed it yourself.
Yeah, most definitely have. It's been really great. Really
good. That's what we like to hear. That's what we like to hear. For those of you listening, I really don't know what's happened to my voice. Still here. Anyway, for those of you listening, that was R2Kast number 104 at Ioan Humphreys. Good episode, all in. I don't know what the next episode is. I've got a feeling it's going to be Benji Eagle, who we're speaking about off camera, actually, Ioan. You might think I post a lot of podcasts. Well, this man's a different breed. I don't know. I don't actually know how many videos he puts out or how many episodes he puts out a month, but he has got about 200 episodes of his Meet the Farmers podcast. He did start a wee bit before me, but yeah, it'd be good to chat pods, good to chat analytics, good to see who's more of a media nerd. I would like to think it's me, but I think he's probably got me beat in this one. In fairness, the guy is a fountain of knowledge in this side of things. So looking forward to that one. If you want to hear another podcaster's story, go back to R2Kast 102, where we had Nick and James of Farming Funny on. Good bit of crack, just taking the piss out of James for being minted, to be honest. That was pretty much what the hour was. And yeah, that's the plan for then. Don't know what episode number 106 is. Number 107 will be that R2Kast all in with some world travelers. So looking forward to that. Thank you to you, Ioan. Appreciate your time.
Thank you much for having me.
And we shall see you next week for the next episode of the R2Kast.
I hope you've enjoyed another excellent episode of the R2Kast. I just want to take this moment to quickly thank our primary sponsors once more, A-Plan Rural. If you follow A-Plan on social media, you'll see the work they're doing to really promote British farming and back our industry. It's been a pleasure working alongside A-Plan Rural so far, and long may it continue. The values of A-Plan Rural runs perfectly in line with the whole mantra of rural to kitchen, and I'm glad to have them on board. Check them out on Instagram at A-Plan Rural and on Facebook at A-Plan Rural Insurance. See you for the next podcast.